Hare Krishna. Welcome to Bite-Sized Bhagavatam by Iskcon of Sacramento. This is a humble attempt by us to give a series of short presentations on a range of topics and interesting verses, as the name would suggest, the Bhagavatam. There are, of course, two types of Bhagavatas. The book Bhagavata, which refers to literature that's full of information about the personality of Godhead and his pure devotees, and this would include literature such as Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, and other books such as Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, etc. The second is in the person Bhagavata or devotee Bhagavata, and this is in the form of instructions from our gurus and sadhus. This commonly forms a stable triangle of Guru Sadhu Shastra, which really harmonizes the information, understanding, and practice of bhakti. Our goal, though, with these topics is to engage the listeners and introduce them to bhakti literature, and we encourage your own exploration of these books. We are in no way trying to be comprehensive and categorical in our exploration of these topics, and I don't think that would be possible. Your discussion, comments, and constructive criticisms are welcome, though I humbly request that in this age of quarrel, that everyone uses their discretion and discrimination as to what they post. This seems to be a natural segue into the topic of discussion for the day, which is communication. And this verse, the verse that highlights this topic, I believe, is chapter 17, verse 15. I wasn't intending to start here, but it seems to be a natural starting point. So that's chapter 17, verse 15 from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We can start with a small invocation prayer, which is at the beginning of the book. Om Ijnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakya Chakshur Umilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. The verse goes as follows. Anudvega karma vakyam satyam priyam hitam chayat swadhayaya abhyasanam chaiva vanmayam tapa uchyate. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature. Purport. One should not speak in such a way as to agitate the minds of others. Of course, when a teacher speaks, he can speak the truth for the instruction of his students. But such a teacher should not speak to those who are not his students if he will agitate their minds. This is penance as far as talking is concerned. Besides that, one should not talk nonsense. The process of speaking in spiritual circles is to say something upheld by the scriptures. One should at once quote from the scriptural authority to back up what he is saying. At the same time, such talk should be very pleasurable to the ear. By such discussions, one may derive the highest benefit and elevate human society. There is a limitless stock of Vedic literature, and one should try to study this. This is called penance of speech. Given that the Bhagavad Gita is eternal, we can see that this is one of the oldest instructions we have on good communication. So it's an essential skill which has been valued in all ages and is not just a new, overemphasized phenomenon of modern times. Of course, it's more difficult to practice currently given the environment of Kali Yuga, where our interpersonal relationships at home and at work are always being tested and strained. Just as an example, in the medical field, we are told that the majority of litigation can be avoided with more communication, in particular more open and honest communication between physicians and patients, and more timely and clear communication between healthcare providers. On a day-to-day basis, we are told that it's not just what information you have to communicate, but how you say it and the body language that you use. Also, not so intuitively, being good at communication means to be a good listener. Now, interestingly, Krishna asks us to go beyond just listening to our audience, but to empathize with them, and in order for us to understand whether something is agitating or pleasing to them, we have to place ourselves in their shoes. Now, you may say this is all good and well, but the truth is often unpalatable, so how do we deal with this? For this, we have to turn to the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and there are a lot of examples, but we'll stick to counter one. In the greeting between Vidura and Yudhishthira, Yudhishthira inquires into the well-being of his cousins, the Yadavas. But by this time, Krishna is wrapping up his transcendental pastimes and the Yadu dynasty has been annihilated. So this would be considered to be painful news. So Vidura decides to omit this information, and Prabhupada writes in the purport of Canto 1, Chapter 13, verse 13, according to Niti Shastra, or civic laws, one should not speak an unpalatable truth to cause distress to others. Distress comes upon us in its own way by the laws of nature, so one should not aggravate it by propaganda. For a compassionate soul like Vidura, especially in his dealings with the beloved Pandavas, it was almost impossible to disclose an unpalatable piece of news like the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. Therefore, he purposefully refrained from it. In contradistinction, later on in the chapter, Vidura has a conversation with Dhritarashtra, where he's encouraging his older brother to retire from family affairs and pursue spiritualization before time runs out. And he's very frank with the truth here. He says, just see, you're overcome by fear, you're old, you're dying, practically everyone you know is already dead, and you're living on the basis of charity just like a household dog. So he doesn't spare the truth, and the information is most beneficial but highly time-dependent. Of course, there is an established relationship between the speaker and the listener in this case, and it emphasizes the need to build upon that relationship before one can actually produce effective communication. In Canto 1, Chapter 17, we have another example of communication of a high spiritual standard, this time from a distressed couple who are victims of a crime. They're being asked to name the perpetrator who is standing before them and who has been caught directly in the physical act of abuse. The perpetrator is the age of Kali personified, and the victims are two helpless creatures, the cow and the bull. Notably, in their distressed condition, they don't name and blame the perpetrator. They prefer instead to present higher and deeper philosophical truths as a cause of their suffering. In the purpose of verse 18 and 21, Prabhupada remarks as follows: although the bull, the personality of religion, and the cow, the personality of earth, knew perfectly well that the personality of Kali was the direct cause of their suffering, still, as devotees of the Lord, they knew well also that without the sanction of the Lord, no one could inflict trouble upon them. According to the Padma Purana, our present trouble is due to the fructifying seedling sins, but even those seedling sins also gradually fade away by the execution of pure devotion service. Thus, even if the devotees see the mischief mongers, they do not accuse them for the suffering inflicted. They take it for granted that the mischief monger is made to act by some indirect cause, and therefore they tolerate the suffering, thinking them to be God-given in small doses, for otherwise the suffering should have been greater. The statement of the bull and the personality of religion was full of philosophy and knowledge, and the king was satisfied since he could understand that the suffering bull was not an ordinary one. Unless one is perfectly conversant with the law of the Supreme Lord, one cannot speak such touching philosophical truths. So we have a few more take-home points from this example. We can see that while still presenting the truth, they have chosen to present a higher truth rather than the immediate lower truth, and that to see things as they are with this level of knowledge actually requires some constant study or swadhyaya abhyasanam on our part. It's also apparent from this example that to be able to speak like this while in distress or under pressure is really a form of austerity and requires a lot of practice. Austerity by definition means hardship, or sometimes another word is substituted as penance. In all three examples, the beneficial aspect to the listener has not been sacrificed. So we have briefly explored a few aspects of austerity of speech, which is the basis of good communication as given in the Bhagavad Gita. And we've also given a few examples of how it's been practiced in Srimad Bhagavatam. Hopefully we've left you wanting more, and there's a lot more to be discussed. I invite listeners to read the Srimad Bhagavatam for yourselves and pay attention to this theme of communication and how it's practiced by the various categories of devotees and personalities and under varying circumstances. Thank you for your attention. Hare Krishna.